Open the box. Officer Travis Cole's voice was calm, almost casual, and somehow that made the words feel heavier inside the Bennett family's quiet home. Marcus Bennett stood beside his desk without moving, his hands visible, his expression controlled. No, for the first time that morning, the room became completely still. 43 minutes earlier, Marcus had been pouring coffee while his 10-year-old son argued about a missing sneaker. Now 3 police officers stood inside his house. Drawers had been opened, family photographs had been moved, and his 16-year-old daughter Nia was holding her phone near her chest, quietly recording everything. Cole stared at the black lockbox sitting beneath the desk. It was roughly the size of a hardcover dictionary, plain except for a narrow security seal running across one edge. To Cole, Marcus's refusal sounded like confirmation. To Marcus, it was something else entirely. "Mr. Bennett," Cole said, stepping closer to the desk, "you're making this harder than it needs to be." Marcus glanced toward his wife, Danielle. She stood near the hallway, with one hand resting on Caleb's shoulder. The boy was trying to understand how breakfast had turned into strangers searching the place where he slept. Marcus looked back at Cole. "I asked you at the door whether you had a warrant." Cole's jaw tightened. "And I explained why we're here." "You explained what you suspected," Marcus replied. "That isn't the same thing." Officer Ryan Mercer stood several feet behind his partner, watching the exchange with growing discomfort. He had been uneasy from the moment they crossed the threshold. The original radio call had been vague. A suspicious vehicle, a possible suspect seen somewhere in the neighborhood. No confirmed address. Yet Cole had treated uncertainty like permission. Now he was staring at the lockbox as though everything he believed about this family depended on what was inside. "Travis," Mercer said quietly, "maybe we should call this in before we go any further." Cole barely looked at him. "We're already here." Near the doorway, Nia adjusted her grip on the phone. The tiny red recording indicator remained visible on the screen. Cole hadn't noticed it. Marcus had. He also noticed something else through the window behind Cole. A black SUV that had been parked nearly 100 yards down the street since before the police arrived was no longer sitting still. It was moving toward the house. Marcus took one slow breath. Cole reached toward the lockbox. "I'm giving you one more opportunity to open it voluntarily." Marcus's expression changed, but not in the way Cole expected. There was no panic in his eyes. "No desesperación. Only certainty. Don't open that box." Cole gave a thin smile. He thought he had finally found fear. "Then I'll open it myself." He never got the chance. A voice came from behind him. "Officer Cole." Everyone turned. 3 people in dark jackets stood just inside the doorway. The woman in front held open federal credentials while the man beside her surveyed the room. The officers, the frightened family, Nia's raised phone, and finally the sealed lockbox beneath the desk. His expression hardened. "FBI, Special Agent Daniel Brooks said." Cole opened his mouth, but Brooks spoke first. "Step away from the family." The house went silent again. This time, even Cole obeyed the silence. But the question none of them could yet answer was far bigger than what was inside that box. Why had federal agents already been watching this house before the police ever arrived? To understand that, you have to go back 43 minutes. 43 minutes earlier, the Bennett home had sounded nothing like the place Officer Cole would soon turn upside down with suspicion. It sounded like a family running late on an ordinary weekday morning. The coffee maker hissed on the kitchen counter. A local weather report played softly from a small radio beside the refrigerator. Somewhere upstairs, a cabinet door opened and closed 3 times before Caleb Bennett came racing into the kitchen wearing one sneaker. "Dad, my other shoe disappeared." Marcus Bennett lowered his coffee mug and studied his 10-year-old son with exaggerated seriousness. "Shoes do not disappear, Caleb. People forget where they put them." That sounds like something a person with 2 shoes would say. Danielle Bennett laughed as she packed her lunch into a canvas tote. At 40, Danielle had spent nearly 15 years teaching American history at a public high school, which meant very little surprised her before 8 in the morning. "Check under the couch," she said. "You left it there yesterday." Caleb vanished toward the living room. 16-year-old Nia sat at the kitchen island scrolling through notes for a chemistry test while eating toast with one hand. "Dad, about driving this weekend." Marcus shook his head before she finished. "You're not taking the car downtown alone. I have my license. You have had your license for 26 days. 28. That correction did not help your case." Nia smiled despite herself. This was the Marcus Bennett his family knew. Patient, careful, almost impossible to rush. At 43, he worked as a telecommunications systems engineer, the kind of job Caleb described to his friends as fixing important computers for important people. Marcus preferred it that way. He disliked making ordinary things sound impressive. But that morning, something unusual had already caught his attention. Through the kitchen window, nearly 100 yards down the residential street, a black sport utility vehicle sat beneath a maple tree. It had been there when Marcus came downstairs shortly after 6:30. Dark windows, engine running, no one getting out. Marcus looked at it for 2 seconds, then returned to his coffee. Danielle noticed. "Everything okay?" "Everything is fine." His answer came too quickly for someone who rarely rushed anything. Danielle studied him, but Caleb returned triumphantly holding his missing sneaker above his head. "Found it. Under the couch?" Marcus asked. Caleb paused. "That information is classified." Laughter filled the kitchen. For another minute, everything felt completely normal. Then Nia looked toward the front window. "Dad, that black truck is moving." Marcus turned. The sport utility vehicle rolled slowly away from the curb and continued toward the far end of the block. His eyes followed it until it disappeared around the corner. He did not look frightened. If anything, he looked as though something expected had just happened exactly when it was supposed to. Then another vehicle entered the street from the opposite direction. This one was impossible to mistake. A marked police cruiser traveled slowly past the neighboring houses before stopping directly in front of the Bennett home. The laughter disappeared. Danielle set down her tote. Nia lowered her phone. Caleb looked from the window to his father. Marcus placed his coffee mug carefully on the counter. "Everybody stay calm," he said. Outside, a second cruiser pulled in behind the first. 2 doors opened, then a third. Officer Travis Cole stepped onto the sidewalk, looked directly at the Bennett house, and started walking toward the front door. Officer Travis Cole did not knock like a man expecting a conversation. 3 firm strikes landed against the front door, followed almost immediately by his voice. "Police department. We need to speak with the homeowner." Marcus crossed the living room while Danielle kept Caleb near the kitchen and Nia remained beside the hallway. Before opening the door, Marcus looked through the narrow window beside it. Cole stood on the porch with Officer Ryan Mercer several feet behind him. A third officer remained near the cruisers. Marcus opened the door only partway. "Good morning, officers. What can I do for you?" Cole looked past him before answering, his eyes moving across the staircase, the family photographs, and a bright kitchen beyond. "You live here?" "Yes." "Name?" "Marcus Bennett." Cole studied him for a moment. "We received a report about a suspicious vehicle in this area and a possible individual moving through the neighborhood. We're checking nearby properties." Marcus waited for more. None came. "What kind of vehicle?" he asked. Cole's expression tightened slightly. "Dark sport utility vehicle." Marcus glanced toward the street. The black vehicle he had been watching was already gone. "And what does that have to do with my house?" Mercer shifted his weight behind Cole. The question was reasonable. That was precisely what made the silence afterward uncomfortable. The radio call had provided no confirmed house number, no verified connection to the Bennett property, and no information establishing that anyone had entered this home. Mercer knew that. Cole knew it too. But Cole had spent years trusting instinct so completely that he sometimes treated uncertainty as evidence waiting to be proven. "We would like to come inside and take a quick look," Cole said. Marcus remained where he was. "Do you have a warrant?" For words. Calmly spoken. No accusation. No raised voice. Yet something changed in Cole's face. "If there's nothing going on here, this can be over in a couple of minutes." That did not answer my question. Behind Marcus, Nia watched carefully. She had seen her father negotiate difficult conversations before. He never rushed to fill silence. He let people reveal themselves inside it. Cole glanced past Marcus again. "Who else is inside?" "My wife and our 2 children." "Anyone else?" No Mercer stepped closer. Mr. Bennett, did you happen to see a dark vehicle on this street this morning? Marcus turned his attention to him. Yes. It was parked about 100 yards down the block for a while. It left just before you arrived. Mercer nodded and reached toward his radio. That information should have redirected their attention away from the house. Cole stopped him with a glance. Did anyone from that vehicle come onto your property? Cole asked. Not that I saw. You sure? Marcus looked directly at him. I know who entered my home this morning. The words were simple, but Cole heard resistance where Mercer heard an answer. From the hallway, Nia quietly opened the camera application on her phone. Danielle noticed and said nothing. Cole moved half a step closer to the doorway. Mr. Bennett, cooperation makes situations like this easier. Marcus kept one hand on the door. I am cooperating. I am answering your questions. I am also asking whether you have legal authorization to search my home. Cole looked beyond him one more time, toward a hallway leading deeper into the house. Then he made a decision that would change the entire morning. We need to make sure nobody else is inside. Marcus did not move aside. Then get the authorization you need. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Somewhere, behind them, a lawn sprinkler clicked steadily across a neighboring yard. Mercer looked at Cole, waiting for him to reconsider. Cole did not. He stepped toward the threshold. Officer, do not mistake my calm for permission. Marcus said it quietly, but every person near the doorway heard him. Travis Cole stopped at the threshold for only a moment, his eyes fixed on Marcus as if the sentence itself had become another reason for suspicion. Behind him, Ryan Mercer looked toward the patrol cars and then back at his partner. Travis, we have the vehicle description. We can check the surrounding streets while dispatch confirms the report. Cole ignored him. Mr. Bennett, step aside. Marcus remained still. I have answered your questions. I have told you what I saw. I have not given you permission to search my home. The morning suddenly felt smaller. The sprinkler across the street continued clicking. A delivery truck rolled through the intersection nearly 200 feet away. Inside the house, the refrigerator hummed beside a breakfast table that still held Caleb's cereal bowl and Danielle's unfinished coffee. Everything about the home said, ordinary morning. Cole seemed determined to read it differently. He crossed the threshold and began looking through the entryway. Mercer followed more slowly, his discomfort becoming impossible to hide. Danielle guided Caleb several steps away. Stay with me, she whispered. Nia stood near the hallway, holding her phone at chest level. The camera was recording now. Cole noticed family photographs along the wall. Marcus and Danielle on their wedding day. Nia holding a middle school science award. Kay grinning beside a fishing dock. Cole's attention moved past all of them toward the rooms beyond. How long have you lived here? He asked. 9 years, Marcus replied. Own or rent? Marcus paused. What does that have to do with the vehicle you are looking for? Cole turned. I'm asking the questions, and I am documenting that I object to this search. Nia's eyes lifted toward her father. She understood immediately. He was not arguing for the sake of arguing. He was creating a record. Mercer understood it too. Travis, he said again, more firmly this time, we should wait for confirmation. Cole walked toward the living room instead. He looked behind a partially open interior door, then toward the staircase. Nothing suspicious appeared. No unknown visitor. No evidence connecting the home to the radio call. Still, the absence of evidence did not slow him down. It seemed to irritate him. Anyone been upstairs this morning besides your family? No, Marcus said. Any guests recently? Not today. Anybody staying here? No. Each answer came without hesitation. Danielle watched Cole scan the room as though ordinary objects might suddenly confess to something. A laptop rested beside school papers. A stack of library books sat near the couch. Caleb's backpack leaned against a chair. Mercer lowered his voice. There is nothing here matching the call. Cole looked at him sharply. We are not finished. That was when Nia raised her phone slightly higher. Cole finally noticed. Are you recording me? Yes, she said. Danielle immediately stepped closer to her daughter, but Nia remained composed. Cole stared at the phone, then at Marcus. Marcus did not apologize for her. She is standing inside her own home, he said. Silence returned. Cole turned away and walked toward the hallway, leading to Marcus's office. Marcus's expression changed for the first time. Not fear, recognition. He looked briefly through the front window. Far down the block, the black sport utility vehicle had appeared again. It was moving slowly toward the Bennett house. Cole reached the office doorway. Mercer saw Marcus watching the street and followed his gaze. "Travis," he said, "something is not right here." Cole stepped into the office anyway. On the lowest shelf beside Marcus's desk sat a plain black lockbox with a narrow security seal across one edge. Cole stopped. For the first time since entering the house, he smiled. "Mr. Bennett," he said, "what is in the box?" "What is in the box?" Cole asked again, and this time the question carried the confidence of a man who believed he had finally found the answer he wanted. Marcus stood just outside the office doorway, watching him carefully. "Something that does not belong to you." Cole glanced at the narrow security seal running across the edge of the black container. "That is not an answer. It is the only answer you need." Behind Marcus, Nia continued recording. Danielle remained with Caleb near the living room, keeping her voice low as she reassured him that everything would be all right. Mercer stepped into the hallway and studied the office from several feet away. Nothing about the room suggested an emergency. Books filled one wall. 2 computer monitors sat dark on the desk. A framed photograph showed Marcus standing beside Danielle and the children at a lake in North Carolina. Then Mercer noticed the box. More specifically, he noticed the seal. "Travis," he said, "do not touch that yet." Cole looked over his shoulder. "Why?" "Because we still have not confirmed that this address has anything to do with the call." Cole turned back toward Marcus. "Maybe we are about to." Marcus exhaled slowly. "You came here looking for a person connected to a dark sport utility vehicle. You have found no person. You have found no vehicle. Now you're standing in my office, trying to turn a locked container into evidence because it happens to be locked." Cole's expression hardened. People do not usually lock up things they want strangers to see. That is what locks are for. For half a second, Mercer almost smiled, but the tension in the room swallowed the moment. His radio crackled. Dispatch was requesting a status update. Mercer reached for it immediately. "Unit 12, confirming original caller information. Do we have a verified address associated with the subject?" Static followed. Then a dispatcher answered. "Negative on verified address. Stand by for additional details." Mercer looked directly at Cole. There it was, clear enough for everyone to hear. No verified address. Cole said nothing. Marcus did not need to. Nia's phone had captured every word. Then Marcus looked toward the front window again. The black sport utility vehicle was closer now, less than 50 yards away, moving slowly along the curb. Danielle followed his gaze. "Marcus," she said quietly. He gave her the smallest nod. It was not reassurance. Exactly. It was recognition. Cole noticed the exchange. "You know that vehicle?" Marcus returned his eyes to him. "I know you should stop what you're doing." Cole stepped closer to the shelf. That sounded like a warning. It was advice. Mercer moved forward. "Travis, dispatch just confirmed we do not have this address. We need to stop and sort this out." Cole stared at the box, as though walking away from it would mean admitting that every decision since arriving had been wrong. Outside, the black sport utility vehicle slowed in front of the Bennett property. Its engine became faintly audible through the window. Marcus heard it. So did Danielle. Cole reached toward the box. Marcus's voice changed. The warmth disappeared, leaving something precise and unmistakable. "Do not open that." Cole froze with his hand inches away. He looked at Marcus and smiled faintly. Now we're getting somewhere. But Marcus was not looking at him anymore. He was looking beyond him, toward the front of the house, where 3 car doors had just closed almost simultaneously. 3 car doors closed outside, but Travis Cole kept his attention on the lockbox. That was the first thing Ryan Mercer would remember later. The warning signs had been everywhere, yet Cole had chosen the one object that confirmed what he already wanted to believe. "Move away from the shelf," Marcus said. His voice was controlled, but Danielle recognized the difference immediately. Her husband was no longer simply protecting the privacy of their home. He was protecting something specific. Cole heard it too. "You seem awfully concerned about this box." "I am concerned about what you are doing." Then tell me what is inside. No. The answer came without hesitation. Cole looked toward Mercer as though expecting support, but Mercer was staring at his radio. Dispatch, Unit 12. Confirm again. Is there any witness statement placing the individual inside this residence? A burst of static filled the hallway. Then came the reply. Unit 12, negative. Caller reported the dark vehicle traveling east approximately 3 blocks from your current location. No residents identified. Mercer lowered the radio slowly. Travis, that is it. We need to stop. Cole's face remained still, but something behind his eyes shifted. He had entered the Bennett home certain that questions would produce suspicion, suspicion would produce evidence, and evidence would justify everything that came before it. Instead, each new fact was taking that certainty away. Nia understood what was happening even if Caleb did not. Her phone remained steady, recording Cole, Mercer, the dispatch audio, and the sealed container that had somehow become the center of the morning. Dad, she said softly. Marcus glanced at her. Keep doing exactly what you were doing. Cole turned toward her. Put the phone down. She is not interfering with you, Marcus said. She is documenting you. I am speaking to your daughter, and I'm speaking to you. Silence. Short. Heavy. Mercer stepped between the hallway and office entrance, not aggressively, but deliberately enough to make his position clear. We do not have this address connected to the call. We do not have a person connected to this house. We do not have the vehicle. Whatever is in that box does not change how we got here. For the first time, Cole looked uncertain. Then he looked through the office window. The black sport utility vehicle had stopped directly across the street. 3 people were walking toward the Bennett home. Dark jackets. Professional posture. No kitty. Marcus saw them and closed his eyes for half a second, as if a clock he had been watching had finally reached 0. Danielle noticed. You knew they were coming, she whispered. Marcus did not answer. Cole heard her. Who are they? Marcus looked at him. People you should have given me time to explain before you decided you already knew what was happening. Footsteps sounded on the front porch. Cole glanced toward the hallway, then back at the box. His pride made a decision before caution could stop him. I am opening it. Travis, no, Mercer said. Cole reached forward. Marcus did not touch him. He did not raise his voice. If you break that seal, you may interfere with something far beyond this house. Cole paused. There was again that calm certainty he had mistaken for defiance. From the beginning, the doorbell rang once. Danielle moved toward the entrance, but before she reached it, a firm voice carried through the open front doorway. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Cole slowly withdrew his hand from the box. Footsteps entered the house. A woman spoke next, measured and unmistakably authoritative. Nobody touches anything. Marcus finally looked away from Cole. At the end of the hallway stood Special Agent Evelyn Carter, federal credentials open in her hand, with Special Agent Daniel Brooks beside her. Brooks took in Nia's recording phone, Mercer's radio, Cole beside the sealed lockbox, and Marcus standing between his family and the office. His expression changed. Officer Cole, Brooks said, step away from that box. Step away from that box. Daniel Brooks did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The words moved through the Bennett home with the kind of authority that made everyone understand the morning had just changed. Travis Cole slowly turned from a shelf. Who exactly are you? Brooks opened his credentials fully. Special Agent Daniel Brooks, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Beside him, Evelyn Carter held up her own identification. Special Agent in charge, Evelyn Carter. Officer, move away from the box. Now. Cole took 2 steps back. Mercer moved immediately, creating space between himself and the office doorway. Marcus remained beside the desk, his attention shifting from the agents to Danielle, Nia, and Caleb. For the first time since the officers arrived, some of the tension left his shoulders. Cole noticed. Mr. Bennett knows you. Carter looked at him. That is not the question you should be asking. The room became quiet. Nia continued recording. Carter noticed the phone, but made no attempt to stop her. Instead, she looked around the hallway, then toward Mercer. Which officer requested authorization to search this residence? Mercer hesitated. No search warrant was requested before entry. Cole immediately spoke. We were responding to a suspicious vehicle report and had reason to believe someone might have entered this property. Brooks looked at Mercer. Was this address identified by the caller? Mercer answered carefully. No. Was anyone observed entering this house? Not by us. Brooks turned back toward Cole. Nothing about his expression was dramatic. That made the silence worse. Then explain why you were standing beside a sealed container inside this family's private office. Cole glanced at Marcus. His behavior raised concerns. What behavior? Carter asked. Cole paused. He refused to cooperate fully. Marcus finally spoke. I answered every question they asked. I told them about the vehicle. I asked whether they had a warrant. Officer Cole entered anyway. Carter's eyes moved toward Nia. Did you record the interaction? Most of it, Nia said. Cole shifted his stance. That recording does not show everything. Mercer looked at him, then at Carter. Something inside him seemed to settle. Her recording will show enough, he said. Cole turned sharply. Mercer continued before he could respond. Dispatch confirmed twice that this address was never connected to the original call. I told Officer Cole we should stop. Another silence followed. This one belonged entirely to Cole. Brooks walked toward the office but stopped several feet from the box. He did not touch it. Is the seal intact? Marcus nodded. Yes. Carter released a slow breath. Good. Cole looked between them. What is that thing? Brooks met his eyes. Something you were specifically warned not to open. I had no way of knowing it was federal property. You did not need to know, Carter replied. You needed legal grounds to search it. The sentence landed harder than any accusation. Outside, the third local officer remained near the cruisers, watching through the front window as another unmarked federal vehicle arrived at the curb. Cole looked toward it, and for the first time that morning, certainty disappeared from his face. What is happening here? He asked. Marcus studied him for a moment. That is the question I tried to ask you when you came to my door. Brooks turned toward the family. Mr. Bennett, is everyone all right? Marcus looked at Danielle, then Nia, then Caleb. We will be. Carter nodded and reached for a phone. Nobody leaves yet. We are documenting everything exactly as it happened. Cole looked at the seal box again, but it no longer seemed like evidence against Marcus. It looked like a boundary he had nearly crossed without understanding what stood on the other side. Then Carter said the words that made even Mercer look surprised. For the record, our team was positioned on this street before your patrol cars arrived. Cole stared at her. Brooks closed his credentials. And Mr. Bennett was not the person we were watching. Mr. Bennett was not the person we were watching. Daniel Brooks let the sentence settle before continuing, and Travis Cole's expression shifted from confusion to something closer to disbelief. Evelyn Carter stepped toward the office doorway and looked at the intact seal on the lockbox. For the past 6 weeks, our team has been investigating a federal contracting scheme involving stolen telecommunications equipment, falsified invoices, and confidential government network information. Cole glanced at Marcus. And he's involved? Marcus answered before Carter could. I discovered irregularities in equipment records connected to a subcontractor my company worked with. I reported them. Carter nodded. Mr. Bennett is a cooperating technical witness. He helped our investigators identify serial numbers, network logs, and procurement records that would have been meaningless without someone who understood the systems. Cole looked again at the box. Its meaning had completely changed. What he had treated as suspicious was actually waiting for a scheduled federal evidence transfer later that morning. Brooks pointed toward the security seal without touching it. That container holds encrypted storage devices and authenticated copies of technical records. It was sealed yesterday in the presence of federal personnel. Mr. Bennett was instructed not to open it, move it unnecessarily, or allow anyone else to access it before collection. Mercer looked toward Marcus. Suddenly, the black sport utility vehicle made sense. You were watching the house because of the evidence. Partly, Carter said. We were also monitoring another individual connected to the investigation who had been seen in this area. That was the vehicle mentioned in the local call. Mercer's eyes narrowed. The dark sport utility vehicle. Brooks nodded. Our surveillance team observed it leave this street before your patrol units arrived. We were coordinating information when you entered this residence. Cole looked toward the window. Then why did nobody tell us? Carter's voice remained level. Your dispatch was receiving updated information. Officer Mercer asked the right questions. The problem is that you kept moving before the answers arrived. Cole had nothing ready for that. The room seemed to grow quieter around him. Marcus folded his arms. That is what I was trying to tell you from the beginning. You saw a house, saw me standing in it, and decided every question I asked was proof that I had something to hide. Cole started to respond, but Mercer spoke first. He told us about the vehicle immediately. He never changed his story. Nia raised her phone slightly, and I have the whole conversation after they came inside. Carter turned toward her. Keep the original recording exactly as it is. Do not edit it. We may ask your parents for a copy. Nia nodded. Brooks then looked toward Mercer's body camera. Your camera was active? Yes, sir. Good. 3 separate records now existed. Nia's phone, Mercer's body camera, and dispatch communications. What had begun as one officer's interpretation was becoming a timeline that interpretation could no longer control. Carter made a brief call, requesting a federal evidence technician and notifying a local watch commander that the scene needed formal documentation. Cole listened without speaking. 10 minutes earlier, he had controlled every question in the house. Now, every decision he had made was becoming a question someone else would ask him. Caleb finally stepped from beside his mother. Dad, are those people here because of your work? Marcus looked down at him. They are here because sometimes doing the right thing means keeping something safe until the truth can be proven. Caleb considered that, then looked toward Cole. Marcus followed his son's eyes. There was no satisfaction on his face. No victory. Only disappointment. Carter ended her call and faced Cole. Your supervisor is on the way. Until he arrives, you will remain in the living room and you will not conduct any further search of this residence. Cole swallowed. Am I being detained? No, Carter said. You are being told to stop. Mercer lowered his eyes for a moment. The distinction was simple, almost painfully so. Marcus had asked Cole to do exactly that at the front door. Then Nia looked at her phone screen and said quietly, I recorded the moment he came inside. Carter turned toward her. Then this morning is no longer about anyone's memory. Brooks looked at Cole. It is about the record. It is about the record. Daniel Brooks's words proved more important than anyone in the Bennett home understood that morning. By noon, the federal evidence technician had photographed the intact seal, collected the lockbox, and documented every room the local officers had entered. By evening, 3 separate records had been preserved. Nia's phone video, Ryan Mercer's body camera footage, and a complete dispatch log showing that the Bennett address had never been identified by the original caller. Facts that had seemed scattered inside a tense morning now formed a single timeline. Marcus answered questions. Danielle gave her statement. Mercer gave his. He did not protect Cole, and he did not exaggerate what happened. He simply described it. That honesty mattered. The department placed Travis Cole on administrative leave, while an internal review examined his decisions. Investigators also reopened earlier complaints involving questionable searches and stops that had previously been dismissed separately. Seen together, they raised questions that could no longer be ignored. Sergeant Douglas Reed, Cole's supervisor, was required to explain why warning signs in those complaints had not received greater scrutiny. Weeks passed. The Bennett house returned to its normal rhythm, but normal did not mean unchanged. Caleb stopped asking whether police cars outside were coming to their house, though for a while he still looked through the window whenever he heard one. Nia saved her original recording exactly as Carter instructed. Danielle returned to her classroom and found herself teaching constitutional rights with a different weight behind every sentence. Marcus went back to work. He never called himself brave. He said he had simply refused to surrender his dignity because someone with authority expected obedience without explanation. Months later, Marcus sat inside a municipal hearing room beneath bright fluorescent lights. Cole sat across the room without a uniform. The review board had already heard the dispatch recording. They had watched Mercer's body camera. They had seen Nia's video beginning moments after the officers entered. Cole had explained that he believed he was acting on instinct and trying to protect the neighborhood. When Marcus was invited to speak, the room expected anger. He offered none. He looked directly at Cole. You learned that morning that federal agents were outside my house. You learned that I was helping an investigation. You learned that the box you wanted to open contained protected evidence. But none of those things are why my family deserved respect. Cole lowered his eyes. Marcus continued. The Federal Bureau of Investigation should not have needed to walk through my door for my wife, my children, and me to deserve dignity. I should not have needed important connections. My daughter should not have needed a camera. Officer Mercer should not have needed to disagree with his partner. The answer should have been there at the beginning, when I asked a simple question inside my own home. Nobody interrupted him. Not the board. Not Cole. Not even the reporters sitting along the back wall. The final findings concluded that Cole had violated department procedures and standards governing the search, and disciplinary action followed. Mercer remained with the department after investigators credited his cooperation and repeated attempts to slow the encounter. Reed faced separate administrative consequences over supervisory failures. For Marcus, however, justice was never about watching careers collapse. It was about making sure the truth could not be rewritten after everyone went home. One evening, Caleb found him replacing the family photographs that had been moved during the search. Dad, he asked, did we win? Marcus looked around the living room, at Danielle reading near the window, at Neo working at the kitchen table, at the ordinary home that had suddenly become evidence of something much larger. No, he said gently. We were heard. Outside, the street was quiet again. No federal vehicles. No patrol cars. Just porch lights appearing one by one as evening settled over the neighborhood. Travis Cole had entered that house believing authority made his judgment right. What he discovered was simpler and harder to forget. Authority can demand attention. It can open doors. It can fill a room with silence. But authority is not truth, and a badge cannot turn assumption into a fact. That morning, truth had a family who refused to surrender it, an officer willing to confirm it, and a 16-year-old girl wise enough to press record.